we are going to talk today about lunar nodes and past lives and present influences. So that is the main topic of the conversation. And this photograph that you are seeing on the cover, this is the North Node and the South Node in the British Museum in London. They have, if you ever visit London and you go to the British Museum, they have all the 9 planets. And you can go and see them. They are quite big, huge deities. And, but only the North and South Node and Jupiter, they're the 3 ones you can really see the difference. So it's the Sun, Jupiter, and the North and South Nodes. So this photograph is from there. And ooh, I've got a magic button, yes. Can you see? Okay. So, as you see, that's me, Komilla Sutton, and this photograph is at a temple in Karnataka in India. It's beautiful old temples, and one of the great things about the temples in India, they're all connected to you see a lot of astrological symbolism there. And I think that is one of the big differences between kind of Western concept of astrology and Vedic concept, is that the Indian concept, the spirituality, the religion, the philosophy and astrology are all mainstream. They go hand in hand. And they were never disassociated with the church or with the spirituality. So many of the stories you see reflected in the chart. So we're going to start with a little bit of chanting, and just a small chanting, and we are going to chant today to Venus, because today being Friday, it's the day for Venus. So we'll do a chant for Ganesha, for the Guru, and then for the planets and Venus. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Dhyanamulam Gurur Murti, Pujamulam Gurur Padam, Mantramulam Gurur Vakyam, Mokshamulam Gurur Kripa. Om Brahma Murari Tripurantakari, Bhanu Shashi Bhumi Suto Buddhascha, Guruscha Shukraha Shani Rahu Ketava, Sarve Grahar Shanti Bhavo. Om Shukraya Namaha. Om Shukraya Namaha. Om Shukraya Namaha. So this photograph that you see, this is of Venus, the one that is dressed in white. Next to her is Buddha or Mercury. And this is from a temple in London. But actually even here in Cape Town, in Guru Krishna's temple, he has all the 9 planets there. So if you want to go and see that, as you know, all how the 9 planets in astrology are used, then they have a very beautiful shrine of the Navagrahas. So before you could only go to India or South India specifically to see them, but now they are all over. So this is a beautiful temple in London. So that's my personal temple I go to when I'm there. So today we are talking about the lunar nodes and their impact on past lives. So basically, you see, when we are talking about past lives, we are not talking of the fact that you think you are, as Rob put it very well, Cleopatra in your past life. It's about how it impacts your mind. So it's not a substantial thing when you're discussing past life in Vedic astrology. It's some, you could say, your personality, characteristic, uh, your nature. What is the difference between what is my nature or your nature or somebody else's? Is that whole concept that Vedic astrology takes very seriously, is that we are sum total of our past lives. And how the past life affect us is through our mind and how we think, and through our subconscious mind. And our mind is subconscious, 9/10 of it is subconscious. And out of that, very little part is conscious. So what happens is that in an average person's life, something happens, they react immediately to situations because the subconscious is taking over and working on them. As you develop yourself spiritually, you develop yourself and clear your energy, then your conscious mind starts working. And once the conscious mind starts working, you then connect to the superconscious. And so Jyotish has been always a study towards a path of self-realization, of purifying your past lives to see that you're connecting more to your conscious mind and then the superconscious. So as long as your subconscious is operational, then it's much more difficult to kind of really, you're controlled by your past life. So what I'm talking today is not that this was what your past life was. And in that, the role of the nodes, Rahu Ketu as we call them, that is a key importance to understand the nodes, because they represent our subconscious and certain fixed ideas or thinkings that are controlling us and not allowing us to transcend our situation. So that is what today, our main topic today is on that. And so, so generally, Jyotish believes that all the planets have a role in the past life. Because why you have a birth chart, you could say what Rod said this morning beautifully, was that it's the ancestors, that we are walking in the path of the ancestors. Similarly, in Jyotish, we also believe in the ancestors and we believe in our karma. That means we are walking in something that we have created ourselves. It's not something that your mother has created or father or somebody, but we created, and now we have to learn how to deal with it. And that is how we learn to deal with it, is first understanding the nodes of the moon. And the nodes of the moon are known as Rahu Ketu in Vedic astrology, and there are 2 points which the orbit of the moon intersects the ecliptic or the apparent path of the sun. That is the key point with the nodes of the moon, that the path, the orbit of the moon intersects the orbit of the sun. So it's about the light in our life, about consciousness, about where we are moving. And when the moon intersects the apparent path of the sun, it disturbs the electromagnetic field. And this can create special conditions which are full of occult significations. So that particular point where this intersection takes place, this is a key point where there's some very special energy resting. And the ancients in the Vedic tradition, in the Indian tradition, they recognize that point of intersection as a key point. And so here it is in a diagram way. And you see that where it intersects, where it comes downwards is the south node and upward is the north node. And so they're always, when they come back, it always comes back in a retrograde motion. They don't move forward. So that point, Rahu Ketu move in, while other planets move mostly direct. Their natural energy is to move direct. Rahu Ketu move backwards. So you see, they are always very important because they are going from the future to the past. because they sort of almost seen the future, but they're going backwards. So it's very different from the nature of the other planets. So, and important to remember that there are two calculations for the nodal axis. There is they are known as the true or the mean node. So most of us, we are working nowadays from astrology. So we tend to have, I think the default position in all software is true nodes. And traditionally in Jyotisha, we look at mean node because in the classics they say that the nodes always walk backwards, and the two nodes are represented as demonic energies within ourselves, as powerful forces of darkness within ourselves that bring light. If we understand them, they bring light. So the demon always walks backwards. Everybody else walks forward. He does the opposite. So so whenever they intersect, so I have so the mean node, due to the twisting motion of the moon's orbital plane, the point of intersection moves retrograde every time it crosses the apparent path of the Earth. The nodes Rahu Ketu move around the zodiac in retrograde motion once every 18.6 years. The lunar node is calculated according to this long-term trend is the mean node. The true node within this larger cycle, there's short-term wobbling of the moon, and the nodes wobble backwards and forward over a period of few days. The lunar calculated with this short-term wobble added is known as the true node. So I have asked this question from many astrologers in India, which nodes they use. So you get a almost 50-50 response. Mostly people from North India, they use the true node. And all the South Indian astrologers most of them tend to use the mean node. But we all follow in the path of what our teachers taught us. So traditionally, more often the mean node is used because it moves only backwards. The true node will have certain times, it never goes forward, but it has what we call a stationary effect. So it can remain stationary at 1 degree for a long time. Certain people pay a lot of importance even to that stationary aspect, because if you have a planet and the node is stationing there, you can have like a month, 2 months of just a stationed energy of the nodes. So I just want to tell you that when we look at the software, so often people will tell me that I am my nodes degree is different to what you are showing, and the reason could be the default setting in your software, whether you are using, mostly they're defaulted to true node. So you have to look up in the settings to see what you have and then decide which one you want to use. So the two types of node calculation show there can be a difference about 1 degree. And in Vedic astrology, 1 degree is a lot of difference, because we have a lot of subtexts in the chart that 1 degree can make a difference in what we call the divisional charts. So, the nodes can be in a totally different place. And especially also with transits, when the nodes change signs, there can be a difference of about 10-15 days between the true node and the mean node. So, so now we come to why they are so important, and Rahu Ketu are the key to unlocking relationships of the soul to its past life. They have been given the status of the planet to emphasize their significations. They are actually not planets at all. You saw earlier on I had the picture of the nodes up. They are given a full status of a planet. But all of you are astrologers, they're just points on the horizon. So they are not classically planets, they represent just shadows. But they are these specific points, and they're known as Chaya Grahas. That means they're shadow planets. They deal with psychology, with fears, anxieties, are things that we don't know about because of their shadowy nature. And I always like to think of them as that they are doorways to some specific sacred area. A few years ago, when I was here in Cape Town, we did a journey to the sacred area of Cape Town. And I think Vipin had organized it, and we went to some really very interesting places, which average people don't know it exists, because at the time of the equinoxes and solstices, there's a special way the light falls there. And, you go and see that. And so, you see, the same thing with this nodes is there, this specific energy that is very shadowy, but it's like a doorway to a much more deeper secret. And often the doorways are guarded by quite difficult energies. So they're not easy to come to or easy to understand, because that doorway is, to go through the doorway, you have to go through a very complicated path. So in this particular area, we see that the nodes are there. So they have no substance, yet are physically non-existent, yet their influence is full of potency and spiritual significance. In keeping with their shadowy nature, they work on the psychological level. Because remember that they actually understand about the secret knowledge, which is your mind. And they have twin purposes, one in the mundane life, another in the spiritual life. But it is intertwined. So you have this whole concept of mundane and spiritual, and this intertwining between practical reality of life and spiritual reality of life. So their actions in the material realm are meant so that we change our thoughts, ideas, what we want and desire. So they represent material darkness, whereas they also show the spiritual light within ourselves. What is darkness to a person immersed in materialistic ambitions can be powerful spiritual energy for those on the path of moksha and spiritual enlightenment. That is the really interesting thing about the nodes, because they can truly get you entangled into a world of materialism, desire, I want this, the nodal impact, or the total rejection of it. And a lot of people on the path of astrology are trying to work both paths, the material and the spiritual. But Rahu especially has an unending desire. So that unending desire, how to deal with it, how to work with it, we can only understand it once we look at our chart and try to work out what it is that we want. So the key aspect of the nodes is that they are the enemy within. You see, when we read any texts or any books, you always have a protagonist outside. You're fighting something outside. The nodes are not fighting any outside person. They're fighting your own qualities. So the darkness and the light that is within yourself. So they individually represent what is the best as well as the worst which lies within ourselves. Both are positive aspects and the negative aspects. The thing about the nodes are they are opposite to opposite energies. So in each one of our charts, one only can work well at one stage. So you have this energy of negative and positive, which is one side which is pushing you, one side that is rejecting. One side wants all the material thing, one side says, no, I want to be spiritual. So in nobody's chart you get both the nodes good. that is just the reality of the situation. Only thing is good is that we learn how to use them. You see, the main idea of a study of Vedic astrology is not as a deterministic astrology that this is your life and that's all you're going to do. The reason that we study karma and we study what is past life is so that we can do something about it. So understanding the nodes and their kind of this twin purpose and the fact that they are our own weaknesses. It's not somebody else who has created the weakness, but it's our own weakness that we need to develop and work with. So, so their actions generally in the materialistic world are there so that we can change it. It's just like people who have achieved all their ambitions and they've reached whatever they want to do and they're still dissatisfied. And that is a very nodal effect because you want, and then you think, where's the happiness in it? And that's where they make you change your attitude. But they first must make you go into that world. You know, they first must make you experience that world so that you can then say, okay. So therefore, what is darkness for a person on a purely materialistic desire when they transform it, it becomes the inner light and becomes from a total working with our subconscious. If we are angry, we are going to say it. If we are emotional, we are going to cry. We learn how to use these energies and learn to manage them. So, what did I do?
Backwards. There we go.
Yeah. I've already said that. So they are the key to unlocking the relationship with the soul and its past life. They've been given the status of planets to emphasize their importance. By the way, if you want these slides, you can email me and you can get the slides. I'm happy to share them with you. So you can just somewhere, my email or on my website, you can find out. I think I'm going backwards. I never used this. So, seeing Rahu Ketu, according to Brihad Samhita, eclipses are the time when Rahu Ketu are visible. Otherwise, these shadows remain hidden, unknown except to those with knowledge and understanding. So, Rahu Ketu have been described in the scriptures. They're given as one name, that their disk is as big as the sun. So their size, but only thing is that their disk is black. And so it's not visible, or you could say no color, opaque. But when they cover the sun during the eclipse, then it's exactly the same size as the sun or the moon. So that is when that you actually seeing the eclipse. And during the time of the eclipse, they always say it's a very potent spiritual energy. But it's not good to do practical things, because like get married or start a new business, because the energy is so intense that it's not the right time to do it. So the seeing Rahu Ketu, and just like you see at the time of the eclipse, we are warned that you cannot see the eclipse with a naked eye. You must see the eclipse wearing special glasses, or in the olden days, you saw the eclipse in water or something. You didn't see it directly, because only at the time of the total eclipse can you see the sun directly, otherwise you get blinded. Similarly with Rahu Ketu, you have to have some kind of special glasses or some guidance to how to understand them, because they have so much psychic energy, so much potency, that they can easily make you mess you up. So, and also in order to see the sun and that special corona of the sun, that is only visible at the time of the eclipses. if you've ever seen an eclipse happening, you see how the energy shifts. We recently had an eclipse in California, and I knew the eclipse was happening, but I walked out and suddenly the whole energy was different. You know, the way the light was falling, the way, and that is because the nodes are impacting, and that is the exact place where the electromagnetic field is. If you can go beyond that understanding, you are in a place of deep spiritual importance. So you have to learn to go beyond that aspect to understand it. So, what happened here? So, how do you? So the soul, in according to the Vedic principles, the soul is born to search for enlightenment. We may not know it. We may think my enlightenment comes from shopping, or my enlightenment comes to getting married to the right person. But the soul is seeking enlightenment. And they are born again and again in order to purify and understand, to find moksha. And moksha is self-realization, enlightenment. But in order to find moksha, the soul must mature and develop. And each life throws difficulties in our path, because the difficulties in our path are nothing but energy to find the enlightenment. Because we mature, we purify, we clear our mind up. So that is a key factor. And so when we are looking at a past life experience, we okay, yeah, here it is. So the past life in our birth chart, we study it from the chart itself. We have the natal chart that you look at. And then we have 3 houses that are connected to enlightenment. They're called moksha houses. The 4th house, the 8th house, and the 12th house. 4th house is the main house for enlightenment, because that is the house that deals with happiness. 8th house is transformation, and 12th house is totally giving up towards enlightenment. So these 3 houses, they are trying to each other. They are actually the water houses: Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. If you look at the natural zodiac, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. So if you understand that the 4th, 8th, and 12th house, then Rahu, Ketu, which are the nodes of the moon, and then more advanced things in Jyotish, which we study, are the divisional charts. We have 3 important divisional charts. One is Navamsha, which is it's different from harmonics because the calculation is different. I think in Western astrology you use harmonics, but that is not the same in calculation. So the Navamsha chart, which is the 9th divisional chart, Dwadashamsha chart, which is the 12th divisional chart. One of the areas that we believe that we see our past life is also through parents. Because the parents that we are born to and our relationship with them also reflects our past life. Because so the 12th divisional chart shows relationship with parents and the karma we inherit through the energy of our parents. And then the 60th divisional chart, called Shashti Amsha, that shows the causal state of the soul. So if you study that deep down chart, you can understand where the soul is coming from and what are the issues and what are the things that you can deal with in life. And all these things are expressed through the dashas. So dashas are a system of timing. When are you going to experience your past life? So certain periods of life where the past life energy, you're always experiencing something, but what we would say is major issues. And dashas are in 3 levels: Mahadasha, Bhukti, Prayantara. So these are, and then transits. So for example, now we are also in a transit situation. Why things are happening today? What is the energy for today? Why the conference is taking place? Why we are born at this time of life? You know, like very important thing to consider now with this whole refugee debate that is going on in Europe. There's a million plus refugees suddenly coming on Europe. It's not the first time mass immigration has come, but it's part of the karma of the people who are living through it. Is that they didn't make a choice about it. It's not a choice. It's something they have to reconcile, work with. And so the transits we live through, they are a very important part of our karmic story, because these transits are decided thousands of years ago. You can't say whether you're doing Western astrology or Vedic astrology or any kind of astrology that you can control the transits. Moon is going to be with Saturn or with Uranus, Pluto, whatever. He's going to do that every month. The planets are going to make certain combinations. But why we live through that path? So the transits are very important, and to understand how these transits work in our lives, because they represent some part of our karmic story, our book of our life. And of course, eclipses, Saturn and nodal transits are the most important. But generally, like next year, we have a major transit year for transits. I'm talking purely Vedic now. We have 2 big stories taking place next year. One is that Rahu, North Node, is going to conjunct Jupiter. So they are going to be together in a very interesting story, because they come in together and they retrograde together, because Jupiter retrogrades on 8th of January and the nodes Vedically join on 30th of January. So Jupiter is already retrograde and the nodes only walk retrograde, and they keep on going backward. So for 4 months Jupiter will be retrograde, it goes direct, but remains till August. So from end of January to August, not only the nodes are together, but they're close, node Jupiter, but closely together. So part of our experience, to experience that is a karmic experience. All of us as a global energy we will experience. And then from February onwards, Saturn and Mars come together. And again in 15th of April, I think it's 15th or 16th of April, Mars retrogrades. And Vedically it's in Scorpio. And then they remain together again, going backwards, right up to October. So this last time, it's not that rare, but I remember that we had Mars Saturn together in a combination in 1982. I remember that because I had just moved to UK, and it was the Falklands War, and it was endlessly for 3 months on TV, and then Mars Saturn were together at that time in Virgo, and children born in 82 all have that combination, and they're now in their 30s, and we are experiencing